Welcome back into the studio, and I have decided to do Mixed Media Menagerie again. I was very inspired by what I saw from Nicole, Laura, and Erin. Really, Laura, for me, it was how she integrated her jeans page with her watercolor page. That really intrigued me, and I wanted to see if I could do as well of a job as she did. The next thing that inspired me was how Erin had kind of had all these hidden elements, and that got me inspired. And then really, goodness, those that papers, the decoupage papers that Sean Petit has. I finished watching the 3 videos, and I immediately went on to Sean's website and purchased the digital version of the architectural papers that Laura, Erin, and Nicole received. And I got them as a digital format, and I printed them on deli paper. Now, I have had to spray them to fix them so they won't bleed, because it's just an inkjet printer. But the nice thing about getting the digital version is I was able to take this and flip it and then print the reverse, how Erin had these wings that she did on either side of her archway. So I was able to flip this. I don't know that that's something I'll do. I was actually more intrigued by this image than I was anything. But I printed these all out on deli paper, and I really loved this big, it's in here somewhere. There's this really big arch. I love this arch. I studied Greco-Roman art history, and it all started with the arches and the buildings and all the architectural stuff, and then how it developed from there. But anyways, so I have out this. I have a ruler, and I have my fountain pens, which I haven't pulled out in a long time. I even got my nibs out just in case I wanted them. And it's funny that they had the Liquitex spray paint in this challenge, because I have been starting to collect myself some Liquitex spray paint because I'm in love with it. So I don't know if I'll use the Prussian blue, because it's not, I don't know, it's definitely something found in nature, but it's definitely not in my realm of doing this. So probably black, or possibly Naples yellow, or the parchment, which is like a new favorite. I don't know, I even have white. And then for paints, I pulled out, and this was something that I really liked about what Nicole had done. I'm always intrigued by Nicole's ability to soften and to bleed out and blend, and that always strikes me with her. But the way that she did that with the brighter colors, and then brought in the glazing, and I used to glaze all the time, and I haven't done it in a very long time. So my thought was I was gonna bring in my favorites. So these are some of my absolute favorite colors: yellow oxide, also sometimes known as yellow ochre, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and then my favorite color in the world is green. I just don't paint with it because I never feel comfortable. So I am actually pulled out some sap green and some green gold, and we'll see how I do with this. So that is where I'm going to start. That's what I'm going to start with anyways. And I think that I am definitely going to do some glazing. So that means I'm going to add some texture in here, and I decided to go with the modeling paste similar to Nicole. So we'll see where I end up, because I start and then I never end up in the same place I think I'm going to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to do some gesso on here. I want to kind of mimic a little bit of what Laura did and how she prepped her jeans page. So I am going to do that on this side. I am going to put a little bit of gesso on the left side. I think that I want to have the take advantage of some of the qualities of watercolor paper and gesso in some areas and not gesso in others, and then see what that nets me. So now that that is good and dry, I'm just going in with some decoupage. I tried to mimic the items that I used for decoupaging to what Erin, Laura, and Nicole used. And really, I'm just pretending like that denim page is paper. I'm just trying to ignore that it's denim. This little stencil is one of my new favorites these days. I've been using it a lot, and I'm just using that, pushing some modeling paste through it in just various areas. I really thought that this had a very architectural feel to it, so that's why I chose it. So I decided, I was a little chicken, I decided to go in with the brightest color of green first so that I could cover up if it was just way too out there for me with the darker sap green. So I did go in there with the green gold first, and I don't know what led me to use a brush, because as you know, if you've been around for a while, you know I usually use my fingers. So I'm not quite sure what motivated me to do that. I just obviously just went with it. So initially I was just going to go in with that sap green, but then I decided I didn't want them to mix too much, so I went ahead and pulled out my dryer and dried the green gold first. I'm kind of glad I did, because I feel like they didn't meld into another green. They kind of stood on their own and complemented each other. And I actually was impressed. I didn't really cover up a lot of that green gold. And now I'm coming back in with this stencil and some of the Liquitex professional spray paint. I kind of futz with that stencil a little bit. I don't know why. I was just trying to get more of like a shadowing effect happening coming off of that. So then I pulled out the burnt umber and prepared to do some glazing. So I have some glazing fluid, and usually I added about 50-50. I went a little overboard this time with the glazing fluid, but all is good. So I lay that down, and when you glaze, you lay down the color. You let it sit for a little while. It depends on your area, how dry it is or how humid it is. And then you pull it up with baby wipes. The premise is that it sits down into the grooves and highlights a lot of your texture. And you can really see here it comes out a lot. But I really liked the darkness too. And so I was trying to find, that happy zone where I get to see the texture, it brings out the texture, but I also get the darkness of that burnt umber. So you see me going back in a lot with the brush and not really pulling a lot back with the baby wipe. And was my reasoning behind doing that, is I was really liking that darkness coming through. And it was also showing a lot of the texture on that heavily textured watercolor paper. It has been really humid around here lately, and I think part of the issue I was also having was that it wasn't as far along in that process as I anticipated. All right, so now I'm coming back into doing some secondary decoupaging, and this is with these deli paper pieces from Jean Petit that they're downloads, printables, and I printed them onto some deli paper. And I'm just finding places that feel right to put that, and I'm back with my fingers again, so I don't know. So I'm gonna get those laid down and go from there. So now I've pulled out this burnt sienna and my ruler, and I'm making some marks on this. It made such an interesting shape. So anyhow, that's what I chose to do with the ruler. I think Laura did that as well with her ruler. Plus, I used it because I cut my deli sheets that way as well. Of course, I come back in with my fingers and add just a little pop of that burnt sienna in areas as well for interest. And also trying to get the decoupage of the deli sheets kind of integrated a little bit more with the layout, so they become one. So I've pulled out my Stabilo All, and I'm going to bring in some organic features into this, just because I felt like it's kind of somewhere in between architectural and structural, and the colors spoke nature to me. So that's the direction I went. It's not something I usually do, but it's where I was led to go. So that's what I did. I tried to follow that. And I did come in with some gesso and put it in this open circles of these organic shapes. And just to highlight them a little bit. And then I just went in and tried to do the same to continue to integrate those deli pieces into what I had already laid down. So I chose to go in with some of the spray paint again, this time in the parchment, just because I wanted to get a little spray over going on and kind of make a little bit of a mistiness to the background. I was really afraid to go too heavy with my hand on this because it can block out. So I was trying to be really light, and it didn't really accomplish what I was going for, but you'll see later on down the line I am going to come in with some more of the white gesso and do the same thing. So in there you saw I added this quote, "Just trust your own madness." I love that. And these are actually pre-made that my friend Ricky makes on her Etsy shop, and she's on Instagram as Ricky Tiki Tabby, and so she has these on her Etsy shop sometimes, and they're awesome and I love them, and the green just went really well with this layout. So after I got that applied with my mini stapler, I come in with a fountain pen and just do some scratchy marks around on the layout. As always, all the products I use in this are listed down below in the description box, and where I can, I have listed product links.